All right, we now welcome on a very special guest. It is the head coach of the Pittsburgh Panthers, Coach Jeff Capel. And Coach, thanks for joining us. So when people think Pitt basketball, the turnaround you have done with this team is simply remarkable, right? 3 years ago, before you get there, you don't win a game in the ACC. Now, here you are in the middle of the bubble conversation. So how would you assess where things have gone since day one when you took over to where you are right now?
Well, it's a slow process. The very first thing, I appreciate you guys having me on, and I appreciate those words. We knew that it was going to be a challenge when we took the job. I understood exactly what we were taking over, not just the 0-18, but you're talking about a team that's trying to find their way in a conference that they're really unfamiliar with. When you look at the success of Pitt basketball, and they were one of the best programs in the country, that happened during the Big East days, being one of the original members of the Big East, and then becoming, one of the top programs in the Big East, especially, once Ben Howland took it over, and then Jamie, doing his thing after that. And so trying to find our footprint in that. We've been very lucky. We've gotten some guys that weren't necessarily highly ranked, but have really developed and gotten better. They had opportunities to play early, and took some knocks, took some bruises. But I think that's made us tougher. I think we're beginning to understand how hard you have to fight every day in order to be good. Understanding the discipline that it takes to be good. Being good is hard. It's very difficult, and there's a lot that's required in order to do that. And we've been good in spurts. What we're trying to do is to become a really good team consistently, and then to become a very elite program. And there's steps that you have to take. I do feel like we're on the right track of doing that.
Yeah, I feel like you've definitely taken a step, because I'm a huge Duke fan and I miss you a lot. I'll tell you that. You beat Duke this year, and everyone was saying how you guys took over a rebuild team. You're a legit contender in the ACC this year, I believe so, because you're just a team where it's so hard to play against, very physical. How is that going back to Duke, beating them, and everything went into that?
Yeah, well, obviously, look, Duke is like the gold standard when you think of college basketball programs. And so anytime you get a chance to play against one of those programs, compete against one of those programs, and then if you can have success against one of those programs, it's a huge step. Last year, in year two, we were able to beat North Carolina twice. This year we were able to beat Syracuse twice, and we were able to beat Duke. You're talking about three of the biggest brands in all of college athletics. And so it certainly was special. I was really happy for our guys, because I know how much playing Duke means to them. And the fact that we were able to come out and play really well. The only thing I hate about it is that I wish our fans it would have been really cool to share that experience with the Oakland Zoo, especially our students. And so I wish we could have had that.
What I'm fascinated by, Coach, is the process, right? So we talked to Steve Peichel a little bit about it, and I'll never call it a rebuild, because I knew those Pittsburgh teams and how good they were, and it's even going back to Charles Smith growing up, But when you take over a team that's struggling, what is the process as far as the priorities? Are you like, you know what, we're beating everybody to recruiting, or I have to build a really good staff, or the culture, we want to work harder, like we got to set things up within the team in our own makeup? What's the process there as far as, how you set that and how long you're doing it? 2-year plan, 3-year plan?
Yeah, I'm not one as far as the plan stuff, because I think that's, in my opinion, I think that's a disservice to some of the guys that we had back. And again, I'm not a big plan ahead guy like that. The very first thing that I felt like we needed to do when I took the job, I felt like I needed to assemble a really good staff. That's one of the things I think I've learned throughout my coaching experience. I became a head coach very young with very little experience at 27 years old when I became the head coach at VCU. And then it happened really fast. I became the head coach at a high major at the University of Oklahoma at 31 years old. And we had early success there, but we weren't able to sustain it. And then I went back to Duke for 7 years and worked there. And it was there that I probably had some of my biggest growth as a coach. I learned a lot. And one of the things I learned was the importance of a really, really good staff. When I went there, Steve Wojciechowski and Chris Collins were already on staff. And I got to really see what a high-level assistant looks like. I learned a lot from them. And so I knew when this opportunity came for me to become a head coach again, one of the things that would be very important to me was hiring the best possible staff. So we tried to do that. That's kind of the first step. And then you get into recruiting. Look, I knew right away that we were not going to be able to go in and get like the elite level guys. Like we weren't going to go in and get a Jayson Tatum or Marvin Bagley. Or when I took this job, I didn't have anyone like Blake Griffin, 25 minutes away. Like when I took the job at Oklahoma, Blake Griffin was a junior. He was right up the road, and his brother was in our program. We didn't have that. And so I knew one of the things that was going to be very important with recruiting, getting guys that we felt like had big upside, that aren't afraid to work, but also have a chip on their shoulder. I think when you look at those teams at Pitt, certainly you mentioned the 80s with Charles and Sean Miller and Jerome Lane and all those guys, Jason Matthews, that were really, really good. And then it took a little bit of a dip in the 90s, and then it started back up. When Ben took the job, when the Pete was opened and things like that. I think if you look at those teams, when Ben Howland got it back going and Jamie kind of, had that sustained success, they got guys that had a chip on their shoulders. They maybe didn't get the number 1 ranked player in New York. He was number 3, but he felt like he was better than the top guy. And that's how they played. There was a toughness about them. There was a togetherness about them. And so that's what we tried to identify. Now, we're going to try to recruit the elite guy, but I knew right away that's not what we were going to be able to get.
Well, you're doing a fantastic job at it because you guys are a pain in the ass to play. And that's exactly what like the chip on the shoulder is, because it's like they have something to prove. Yeah. And that's what Pitt basketball is. So, yeah, you're doing a fantastic job with that.
I appreciate that, man.
So, Coach, you mentioned Blake Griffin. A little backstory here. I work on another podcast called Pardon My Take, and every year they have the Blake of the Year award. Blake Griffin, Blake Bortles, and then Brooks, they call him Blake Koepka. They all give off this same vibe where they don't really give a crap what you think. They're very athletic. They're very fun to be around. So during your recruiting years and your Oklahoma time with Blake Griffin, is there any story that sticks out to you of Blake Griffin just not giving a crap about something that you said or something that happened around Oklahoma basketball?
He's a guy, and his family, not just Blake, but his family, his brother Taylor, who played for me as well for 2 years, and then his parents. Like I learned so much from them. I learned a lot from Blake. That was the first like truly great player that I had. I had some really good players at VCU, but he was different. And it got me to understand the mind of different, like how they think differently, how they approach things. The one thing about Blake is that he's really, really funny. I think people are starting to see that as he's gotten to the NBA, and you see some of the things that he's done, how he committed. Like I took the job there. It was in early April. I met Blake. I had no idea who he was. I met him a few days later. His parents came over to introduce themselves, and then I saw him play. It was at a tournament in Texas, and I was blown away. I was blown away by the athleticism, the physicality, and how hard he played. And then the very next weekend I saw him, and I thought this was a funny story. So, he and I had developed a really, really good relationship, and we talked like every day. And I went and saw him play in Dallas the second weekend, and Taylor drove down from Oklahoma. And so I'm watching the game with Taylor, and, he's like, Taylor's like, hey, Blake, this and that. And he was like, do you really want him? I said, yeah, of course. Like, he's the most important guy. And I said, he was like, well, you've never talked to me about Like, you've never talked to me about Blake. I said, well, Taylor, I want my relationship to be with you. I don't want you to think I'm just trying to use you to get your brother. Like, our relationship is really important. You're my player. And he was like, well, Coach, I appreciate that answer. And he was like, well, I was at home earlier this week and Blake and I talked a lot about you and our family. And I said, great. And he was like, Coach K called them the other day. I said, yeah, I heard. And he was like, yeah, like Blake was blown away by that phone call. And I said, I understand that. I've been there before. And he was like, well, I just want you to know that I told Blake, if this is what you want to do, if you want to come to Oklahoma, like, I support that. You should do it. He maybe wanted to come before, but I don't know if I would have felt that way. And I said, Taylor, if he wants to come here and you tell him not to, I'll kill you. Like, I will absolutely kill you. And then about a month later, we were in my office. It was the playoffs. It was Game 7 of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Detroit Pistons in the playoffs. And Blake came over. It was a Sunday. He came over to watch the game with me. It was an afternoon game. And so we're sitting in there, we're talking, we're watching the game, in my office. And he's asking me these questions about recruiting. Like, what happened, during your process? If you could, if you commit somewhere early, do you think that hurts you or helps you, like for being a McDonald's All-American and things like that? And I kind of thought it was kind of weird, some of these questions. And we had been in there for about an hour. And then after about an hour, Taylor comes in. And so we're all sitting there, we're talking, watching the game. And then they're getting ready to leave. And so, Taylor's like, hey, B, like, don't you have something you need to tell Coach? And he just looks at me. He was like, oh, yeah, by the way, I want to commit. I want to come. You're the guy I want to play for. And I look at him and I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, Coach, like, you're the guy that I want to play for. Like, I believe in you. You're the guy. I got up and I walked out the office because at that point at Oklahoma, since I had taken the job, like, nothing had really gone right. You know what I mean? Like, Scotty Reynolds decommitted, Damian James, like, it was just all this stuff. And, kind of to a certain extent, even with me, I'm thinking, like, did I make the right decision? Like, nothing is going right. And then this happened. Like, I thought I was getting punked. I thought Ashton Kutcher was going to jump out my closet and tell me I was getting punked. But that changed our program. That changed me. And it really kind of established our relationship.
That seems like a very Blake thing to do. You're watching the Game 7, doesn't say a word, and then at the end, he just throws in that little fact.
Yeah, just throw it in like that. I mean, it was him. And then, like, we had some restrictions recruiting, because of NCAA stuff. When I took the job, like, I never did a home visit. Like, he was just like, Coach, don't waste time. Go get other guys. I'm good. You don't have to do that. You know what I mean? He was so low maintenance about the stuff.
Yeah. It's like a huge decision in his life. He's like, oh, I totally forgot. I'm coming to your school. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
It's like asking somebody to marry you through a text.
Yeah, exactly.
How does home visits even work? Do you just eat dinner with their family? I've never understood that.
Well, it depends. I mean, sometimes the parents have a big spread. One of the things is it's funny. It's funny as hell, man. Like, some of these home visits are really, really funny because you can have a guy, like, it could be you or a guy on your staff, right? And let's say if, like, you have someone on your staff that, like, doesn't eat red meat, but doesn't eat pork. But then you go and you, like, really want this kid, and the mom or the family is cooked. And let's say if she's made steak, like, you better eat that steak.
You better find the dog or something.
Like, the only way you probably could get out of it is, like, if you had some kind of food allergy. But it's been some funny experiences with it, man. Like, going and seeing and doing, and you get a feel of the family and a kid with his family and how he is. I like to watch all of the stuff. I love to watch how a kid interacts with his family. One of the things my dad taught me, he used to say this back before I got into coaching when he was a college head coach. And I've done this. He says, I love to watch the way a kid interacts with his mom.
Yep.
And his whole thing is, like, if the kid is disrespectful or talks back to his mom, you have no chance as a coach.
They're not going to give a shit about you.
Talk back to you. Exactly.
I just
And
can't
so try to be
imagine
mindful of that.
I can't imagine you losing out on a recruit because someone on your staff's a vegetarian or something and you won't eat their food.
Well, in recruiting coaches, that's one of the things. I make sure I don't have any vegetarian.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally like going to your like girlfriend's house for the first time, their family, and they have a bunch of vegetables. You're like, you're gonna shove that down your mouth, or you can't say a word.
Exactly. So it's been some interesting visits, man. Some of these home visits I've been a part of.
See, I would definitely be playing for you because we read before this that you're
Well,
a
the best ones, like the best ones, man. The best ones is like, you got a great meal, but then if they bring out like some wine or some beers or something like that, that's how you know you're in pretty good.
So then I guess on the flip side, and you don't have to name names, but and we love this stuff. What's the craziest thing you've seen? Somebody asked for an autograph, like somebody's grandma was like, you got to be running the pick and roll. They're demonstrating like motion offense. What's been the craziest one that either you or your assistants have heard? And you've been around for a while, so
yeah. I mean, I've heard a bunch of crazy ones. Some of the most fun ones have been like when you go, and I remember when I was at Duke, we went to go. This was maybe about a week, almost 2 weeks after we won the championship in 2015, and Coach K, myself, and John Shire, we went to go see Jayson Tatum. We went to do a home visit with him. And we're there, and it's his mom, his dad came over, it's his grandmother was there, and then a guy, I think it's his cousin, but he's like his brother. And so we're sitting there, and Coach is doing his thing, and we used to do a thing. I used to say, like, if it was a guy that like we really, really wanted, the thing that we tried to do as assistants is get everybody there. Everyone that's important that you think, and then just turn Coach loose because he's magical. Like, he is absolutely magical. And so we're in there, Coach is doing his thing, and it's going really, really well. And then all of a sudden, Jayson, he commits. Like, he tells us he's coming. And it was so shocking. And like, I'm looking around, and I think I didn't realize I said this out loud, but I turned and I looked and I was like, what the fuck? And like everyone starts laughing, like Jay, his mom, his cut, like everyone just starts laughing. And so those are the great ones. Then afterwards, man, we had some beers. It was really cool. I had never seen Coach K drink a beer. He's more of a red wine guy, but his mom offered a beer and he damn sure drank that beer.
That's amazing. He definitely worked out for you guys too. He was fucking awesome.
No question. And he still is.
He still is, yeah. And that's like, so a little, we read this before. You're a big Curb Your Enthusiasm guy?
Huge. Oh my gosh, huge.
I literally have a poster of Larry in my room. So like, what's your
favorite episode? What's your favorite episode?
I have two. I have the Korean bookie and the HOV lane where he goes.
Okay, so my two are, I love the one with Crazy Eyes Killer. Yeah. Absolutely love that one. And then my other favorite one, man, is the one where like they hire the chef that has Tourette's. And at the end, like how that one ends.
They're all just cursing in the restaurant.
Yeah. And then Susie, because I love Susie, and then Susie walks in and she thinks Cheryl is cursing at her.
That's an unbelievable episode. That's an underrated one, I think.
Yeah.
There's
so many of them, though, man.
Literally, like everyone, like could be my favorite.
Yes, I agree.
So, Coach, you mentioned earlier how you're missing out on the fans, right? Especially after that big win against Duke. We talked on this podcast before how the Oakland Zoo is one of the best student sections in college basketball. You've obviously seen Cameron Crazies. Oklahoma's got a great fan base. What separates the Oakland Zoo from the rest of those student sections in college basketball?
Well, I think just, how rabid they are, how informed they are, the fact that, they dress up as zoo animals, like they take it seriously, the Oakland Zoo. They're very, very passionate. about their team. And again, I just think when this program has been really good, and hopefully we're on the way of becoming really good consistently again, I just feel like this program reflects this city. This city is tough. It's no excuse. It's show up with your hard hat, your boots, and you just work. And you beat people. Like, you just outwork people. There's a toughness. And I think, you get a lot of energy from that student section. I think the student section is the same way.
One of the guys giving you a jolt this year is Justin Champagne from
Champagne.
the CHS.
Sorry, Rico.
Champagne?
Yeah. I'm very uptight about pronunciation.
Should be Champagne. The way he played, that's a perfect name. But I apologize. We'll clip that one. One of the guys giving you a jolt is Justin Champagne. Give me that again, Jake.
Champagne.
Champagne.
Like the penny.
Got it. It should be Champagne. I'm sorry. One of the guys giving you a jolt is Justin Champagne from Brooklyn, Bishop Loughlin. I'm very familiar with the CHSAA. He was a great player last year, but it looks like he's taken that jump. What's been the X factor with him in his offseason, or how instrumental have you been as far as saying, we need you to do this, or he just went out and worked? Like, what went into that? Because he's playing out of his mind.
Yeah, well, I think a big part of it was him. I think the mindset that he had about coming in, he and I had a discussion at the end of the season, like I do with each kid, about the things I think you need to work on to improve your game. Obviously we were in a pandemic, so he couldn't be here until late July. One of the things that we would talk about, and he would constantly tell me during the summer before he got back here, was, Coach, like, I want you to really be on me. I want you to push me. I know I don't take it well sometimes, but I want to be really, really good. And then he was fortunate that during the lockdown, during the pandemic where you couldn't do much, he had some places up in the New York or the tri-state area where he could go and work out. He and his family are good friends with Obi Toppin and his family. They're from the same neighborhood. And so he had a chance to work with Obi some in the summer. And as Obi was getting prepared for the draft, they had a chance to do that. Justin and his brother Julian did. And so I think that's why you've seen the big jump, with both of them. I mean, it's a really amazing thing when you think about it, man. Two brothers, twins, and one leads the Big East in scoring, one leads the ACC in scoring. It's a pretty special thing.
That's awesome. So, Coach, we can wrap it up with this. Of course, the tournament is Selection Sunday. It's 4.5 weeks away. Pittsburgh 9-6. You guys are 500 in ACC play. What do you think the path is for you guys to get back to the tournament? Because you've been in the bubble conversation. Right now, you have 6 scheduled games left. Where are you at with that?
Yeah, we have to finish strong. That's one of the things that last year we were in maybe a similar situation, and we didn't finish strong. And so hopefully we can learn from that. And we have to, we have a great opportunity in front of us, but we have to take advantage of that opportunity. And we have to understand that it's day by day. We can't just wait for the games, our preparation for it, our discipline for it, all of these things. And we have to do it in a season that's unlike any that anyone's ever experienced because of COVID. Like, you literally don't know day to day who you're going to have in practice. Are you going to be able to practice? Are you going to get to a game? What's going to happen by Sunday? Are we going to be able to play? And so there are a lot of things that are required in order for us to be able to hopefully be one of the teams that's selected to participate in the NCAA tournament.
Awesome. If you guys don't have anything else, we can wrap it up here. That's Pittsburgh head coach Jeff Capel. Coach, we really appreciate the time. Awesome stories about Jayson Tatum, Blake Griffin, and of course Pittsburgh. Good luck the rest of the season, and hopefully we'll see you in the tournament.
And Coach,
all right, appreciate it, guys.
One more quick thing. Did you only go to Pitt if they gave you that art piece behind you, or?
Nah, this didn't come with that.
Didn't come with
it. It was a white selection. I don't know what it is, but
I kind of love it. It's pretty sick.
Yeah, I do too.
Wait, one more. I mean, it's your most famous play, and I'm sure you get harassed about it on the street and stuff like that. The buzzer beater against Carolina. I was lucky enough to watch it. The next day, I'm a big Duke fan with Marty. The next day, my dad was like, you got to check this out. The question's not really about the shot. How dumb was Carolina's defense?
Well, one of the things that's really fascinating, and you just did it, like everyone thinks it's a buzzer beater. And it actually sent the game into overtime. We actually lost that game. But I never correct anyone when they say
no,
that.
I knew it. Yeah, well, I mean, buzzer beater to get to,
yeah. Well, it's really interesting, and it kind of goes to the whole thing of like, do you foul? I mean, I think it happened so fast, it wasn't that much time left, and I think maybe they anticipated Serge Zwicker making the free throw to put it out of reach where it would have been a 2-possession game, and in that moment, they had no one on the line. There was really no one, to get in my path. And I was it was a shot that I was confident. If you go back and you watch the game, I almost made one going into halftime. And so that was a shot that I was pretty confident. I practiced it a lot, messed around after practice doing it. And so just fortunate in that situation, man, to have a moment in that rivalry, a guy that grew up in North Carolina, that grew up watching that game and always dreamed of playing in it, and not just playing in it, but to have a moment that people always remember is a really cool thing, even though we lost.
Right. Yeah. That's the one probably thing that sucks. Like everyone brings it up.
Oh,
like,
man.
Lost.
We lost. That's the thing. A lot of people don't realize it though, and I don't correct them. So I just let them go.
No reason to.
Yeah.
All right, that was an awesome interview, Matt. I really appreciate you coming on, and we'll be in touch. Thank you for everything.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Coach.
All right.